Kia ora everyone and welcome back to Muse, and today for episode 12 we actually have an ex-student of mine, let's say former student of mine, Danny, who I'm very excited to have on because it's been a while. I think, Danny, did you leave in 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
So this will be coming into the 3 years, so it's 2 years since you left, but this now would be the third year. And the reason I got Danny on is because Danny, along with the likes of Jenny and also Abby, they were writing songs like consistently and would be showing me songs in class, and I loved hearing that, and I loved learning about what they were doing. And so, you know, that year in 2018, we released some of their music on Spotify as part of our Waiuku College music album, and so I wanted to get her on so that I can actually get her to talk with us about, you know, her process of writing music. And she's currently studying at Mains, is that right?
Yep.
So,
last year of my batch at Mains.
Batch? You mean bachelor?
Bachelor.
Bachelor. And what is the Bachelor of Music in? What is it in? Bachelor of Music in?
Arts.
Arts. And what's your major?
So I major in songwriting. Yeah. So my primary instruments are guitar and vocals. So that's what we kind of learn. Yeah. Excellent.
Okay. So, Danny, we normally start by getting you to talk to us a little bit about your history of music, like how you got into it, where you went to school, etc. Feel free. Yeah, let's have a chat about that.
Cool. So when I was younger, when I was 8 years old, I actually started writing songs. Like pretty much as soon as I picked up the guitar, it was my passion from a very young age. My dad kind of taught me a lot about guitar, but he didn't really want to teach me in a room necessarily, so he kind of just left it for me to kind of learn on my own, which was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I only really started taking lessons when I was in high school, so year 9, year 10.
That was Waiuku College, right? That was before you came to Waiuku.
Yeah, so I was at Waiuku for 1.5 years before I came to Waiuku, one of the country colleges. Very different scenery, but it was really awesome. I think when I moved to Waiuku, it was hard at first, but I think I definitely learned a lot more to put myself out there, especially in my music. Like I became a lot more confident to actually perform and just to sing in front of people, which was really cool. I think definitely having the right people around you to kind of make you feel a bit more confident as well to do so actually helped me. Definitely with one of my teachers, it was really cool. It really pushed me, and now it was me. I think definitely in year 13 I started exploring a little bit more about the recording aspects of things, and actually just like figuring out what I wanted to do with my music, in the sense of what I wanted to put in, what instruments I wanted to use, and etc. So it was really cool. Yeah, pretty much.
Can we talk a little bit about some of those things that happened? Because to me, that, like, I'm not discounting anything that happened before, anything that's happening now and in advance, but that was the year, I think it was 2017, where we had, because like I had Sophie on the show recently and I've had Jenny on the show recently, but that was the year, and I still have the photo in my room, that Gabby, the bass player, had made, and she's like, something about these are my favorite music students, and then there's me standing with you at the Rock Quest, and you guys had Jamie and he's
Ash.
Gonna kill me, Ash, that's it, yeah, Ash Rees on on drums, and you wrote that killer song with that killer riff, and you guys had so much fun. Do you know, like, talk to us about that experience?
Oh man, that was an epic experience actually. Like I remember the first time we went up, when we did our audition. It was the moment, that was actually the moment I decided I actually wanted to perform.
Awesome.
Because it was such an epic experience, like just having the right people with you, supporting you on stage as well, and being able to just have fun. And I remember when Possum came in, she really taught us a lot about that. Just have fun on stage, you know. It was actually, it was epic.
She's coming back. She's coming back to work with some students actually.
Oh man,
I know.
yeah,
Very excited.
yeah. She was so cool. We learned so much from her.
And in 2017, there was 6 bands, right? We had 6 bands, so we had a van full of music students passionate about playing, and that was such a great year. It was exciting. And I'm not, as I said, I'm not discounting any other year, but for me, that was kind of like the first year I got with teaching you guys. And I've had this big drive about trying to get bands together and trying to get you guys to perform. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that experience and that kind of helped you understand how much performing is. I want to jump now to, you mentioned in your final year at school, you started learning about recording and things like that, or getting interested in it. I remember walking into the studio, and you were writing a song and it had no title at that stage, but it had that really cool like little synth line that was just kind of like one note. And that song eventually became Lately. That's the name of the song now. So, one of the focuses is talking about how you write songs. So maybe if you talk to us about how you were writing songs before that, and then we can discuss Lately a bit later on.
So before I started writing songs, like using the software and stuff on computers and stuff, I was definitely just writing with my guitar. That was pretty much it. Beforehand, I'd always just use like I don't know. I think I would always start with using just the guitar and trying to find something really cool, and then kind of making up some melodies around that and figuring out like what I wanted to talk about, which was really cool. I guess you can talk.
I'm gonna jump in here because I'm gonna push you a little bit more. I did tell you at the beginning. All right, here we go. So when you pick the guitar up and you're playing, how are you picking the chords? How do you know what chords you're picking? There's so many chords in music. What are you doing? Are you just noodling around on guitar?
Sometimes, definitely. I think when I like to go when I am especially going through something, I guess, either if it's like a happy feeling or something that's happened recently that hasn't been too great, I like to pick up the guitar and kind of just let me feel my way around it, and
cool.
What I kind of want the next tune to sound like. So I kind of dig deep in myself to try and make it as authentic as possible and as raw as possible, for me to actually start building onto that.
Yeah, but
makes sense.
That's right. And like songwriting is like a blank canvas, and that like you kind of, from my experience, like what you're saying is I'd sit in my room and play some chords. What happens after you play chords? What happens to get you to start singing and writing words? What are you going through when those things start to pop up? How does it even work? How does it happen?
Yeah, honestly, it's just the way that I feel sometimes. If I've got like a specific thing in mind, I'll definitely start either like brainstorming on a page and just trying to get the words out, because sometimes it's really hard to kind of figure out what you actually want to talk about. So it's really good to just write it on a page, just to kind of figure out, okay, this could be good to use, or definitely not this, kind of just get the right angle for the song. And then you kind of get your instrument to kind of support what you're feeling in that way, what you're feeling and what you're trying to actually say, because it does play a huge part on songwriting, this getting the right instrument and getting the right chords and stuff to support that. Like you wouldn't really necessarily write a happy song with lots of slow minor chords, but you're trying to say something really happy, you want to try and really support what you the angle that you're coming from. You know?
And you know what, like a lot of people kind of bag what we would call the 4-chord song structure, right? So like, chords 1, 4, 5 and minor 6. But to be fair, the reason those exist and they're so popular is because it's a really nice template to start writing music with, because that takes one thing out of the equation. You're not having to think about chords. When you're writing, Danny, and you're like, you start singing random stuff, which is typically how most songwriters do, from what I understand, right? Then you feel that something, and you're like, that feels so good. And then you start just writing whatever the words were that you were singing. You grab your pen, your paper, or your iPhone, or whatever, and you just write them down. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, recently even, just trying, like you're messing around with lots of melodies and stuff, and you figure out this one word and it really sticks out to you, and you kind of brainstorm around that one word. It's really good just to like kind of figure out, okay, I could be writing about this, either a sentence or a word. It's really good. So
and who are some of your influences sorry, we mentioned before that sometimes because we're using Zoom, it sounds like I'm interrupting Danny and etc. But we're not. Who are some of your influences that you reckon have kind of like given you like almost like a blueprint or template as into you're going in the right direction because you've got these guys as those blueprints and templates? Who would you say are some of those artists?
It's definitely it's kind of hard to kind of pinpoint one artist. I
Mm-hmm.
think because I like to experiment with lots of different genres and stuff and kind of push myself in songwriting. But for me, definitely, 21 Pilots has been a huge influence in the way that I write music and specifically words.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics that I use, which is really cool, just to kind of, I don't necessarily, like, they taught me a lot. Like, I don't necessarily have to be really, how do I say it? Just like I can just kind of describe it without really telling you what the situation is, kind of using lots of metaphors
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, which has been really cool, to kind of experiment in that way and not using the same words the whole time, because it's kind of hard sometimes when you're writing the same words in all the songs, it keeps
Mm-hmm.
coming up.
Oh, I know
So it's
that
really,
feeling.
yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I think like even just going on what I want to talk about, like I don't know if you guys have heard of Lauren Daigle. She's a huge idol to me, like just the way that she even expresses herself in her music, and especially live, like getting people involved. She's really helped me in that way and just kind of pushing me to experience the song a little bit more and go deeper into it, which has been really cool. Yeah.
Here's a question that's kind of like a tricky one, I
Yeah.
guess, and that is, say you've spent now 20 hours that hypothetically working on the song. You've spilt your soul into the song lyrically,
Mm.
and you've thought about all the musical detail, and then someone listens to the first 10 seconds and they don't like it and they skip it. That happens,
Yeah.
man. Does
Yeah.
that bother? Do you reckon that bothers you?
Honestly, I think if you would have asked me like maybe 2 years ago, it probably would have. But I think I've definitely learned over the couple of years that if it doesn't capture them, the song's not just, it's okay. The song's not meant for them. It's for someone else to kind of figure out, like
That's a great
to
way of
listen.
thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it doesn't apply to everyone. Not everyone's going to like your music, but you're writing those songs for the specific people who actually want to listen and hear what you have to say. And yeah,
And so couldn't we like say then that when you're writing songs, you're kind of writing them for yourself because that's just like therapy. It's kind of like a way of like, internalizing certain situations you're going through. And as you mentioned, you talk about how you use metaphor, to talk about something that you can't talk directly about. That's why people like myself and yourself and everybody else, we write songs for ourselves, right? Do you reckon that's fair?
yeah, oh for sure, yeah. I think the best songs come from something that you're writing for yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
because it's so real and it actually applies to so many other people. Like you're definitely not going through it alone. But yeah, I totally agree with that.
Sweet, and you know what? And just going back to that moment about if someone skips a song, eventually, like I discredited a whole lot of songs, and it wasn't until I got to university that my lecturers rather, and one of them's going to be on the show in a few episodes. I don't know exactly when, but kind of changed my perception on how I listen to music considerably. Even though I felt like I was going through that journey of changing how I listened, I started to pay more attention to some of the styles that I didn't, noticing actually there's a lot of clever songwriting there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now I want to jump into then, because I know your songwriting style and I heard it, but as I said, I walked into the studio and heard you working on this song, which to me was kind of like everything I knew about how Danny was writing, to be honest, was thrown out the window. And here we have this whole new era. Like there was no acoustic guitar in it whatsoever. I think maybe there is somewhere, maybe there's nothing, but I don't think there is. Is that right?
No, it's piano based. Yeah.
So talk to us about that, because to me, out of all the songs that you've written, that I was privy to hearing while I was, working with you as your music teacher, I like to call it learning leader, if you will. that one really got the most attention from me because it was interesting to hear something totally different to everything else that you'd done. So let's just talk about that for a little bit, eh?
Yeah. So in my final year of high school, I was kind of going through a really like tough phase, I guess, like just the fear of the unknown. And for me, I just went into the recording studio one day, and I just played just some random chords, and like just kind of felt my way around the piano. And there was this one like chord progression that really stood out to me, so I recorded it, I put it through Logic, and it kind of set myself up for what I wanted to do in the end. So I knew that I wanted it just to be real chill, not too much instruments, just to have something that's a little bit more airy, just so I can kind of ramble on about what's going on in the song, what I'm kind of feeling. So no, it was pretty cool.
And there's a couple of things I really like, which maybe you haven't really thought about too much, or you're like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. One is the kick drum kind of sounds like a heartbeat that's not right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like, and because it's like a pattern that repeats, it has a heartbeat feel to it, but it's not a heartbeat, if that makes sense. And there's that little siren sound, it's not a siren sound, but it's that sound that I always think of as a siren. It's like, because it's the same note, and it kind of just feels like it's not part of the chord. It's like, it's an addition to it outside of that chord's note. It's almost like a cry for help. And because it's so subtle that when you hear it, it is always there, and at the very end of the song it comes back. And the other thing is that song builds and builds and builds and builds into this massive ending. And I remember when we were recording vocals for that, when I started to get be able to help you a little bit with it, the first chorus was your belting, which you're very, very good at, your belting vocals. And I was like, I think let's try to approach that from a different perspective and think about it as like, not leave that belting intensity to the end, so that when you hear it, the person wants to go back and hear it again, because they're like, oh, that was like a roller coaster ride. You remember those moments?
Yeah. No, honestly, like this one definitely developed my songwriting in a whole nother way. I opened another box in my brain. I definitely took a lot of influences, especially Cass. Do you know Cass? C-A-S.
No, I have to listen.
Yeah, she definitely inspired me in that aspect, especially with that synth note that keeps going on. But it really added to it. But I think when we listen to it back, there's a moment where it kind of like explodes into this big chorus, and at first I was like, this is just weird, but even just listening to the song, it kind of makes sense. It's kind of like, okay, this is like everything's built up to this point, like it's kind of making me explode, and that's why it's so big in that last chorus.
And I think when I was helping you kind of like at the end when we were structuring it, because I could tell from my perspective that's kind of like where it should be going. But at the end of the day, it was your decision and your song, and so that became it was your song. Like I just kind of gave you a couple of little insights to think about how you could adjust it, and I'm so glad you followed your heart into that song, because to me that's still one of my favorite songs you've ever written. And before we go, I do want to mention that my other favorite song that you've written is Suffocating, because that was like your first real hardcore rock song, which was kind of like acoustically driven, and we had a lot of fun recording that. That's got a lot of belting vocals.
Yeah, that was my favorite song, like especially in high school. I loved it so much. No, that was epic. We first started writing that song when you put out a little, like a challenge for us in school, which
I remember that.
You remember? Yeah. And that was pretty cool. It probably wasn't really what the challenge was about, but it was epic. I definitely explored like another aspect to myself as well, writing the song. Definitely had to tap into what I went through, like in the beginning of high school. Like it was like real rough, but it really set up the song for me really well, just to describe and kind of I think this was the first song where it actually came out about what was going on, especially with the media and just everything that I was going through before. So yeah, it was really cool. It's definitely one of my favorite songs.
It's so good to hear. And we'll talk to Godfrey when he jumps on about that challenge, because that's actually I took inspiration 100%. That's his idea. You know, when I was at university, that's their idea, kind of, and brought it into what we did at high school. So yeah, you can go check those tracks out. I will put the links down below in the video or the podcast. You can go off and check those out. And so I always finish with a question, and the question is the following: 3 words of advice for students or those interested in getting into songwriting. 3 words, and this becomes the title of your episode.
Oh, 3 words?
Yeah, man.
Not even just like a sentence.
Nah, but you can. I'll give you the chance to explain your 3 words at the end. Then, since you're an ex-student of mine, I'll give you that luxury. But 3 words.
Okay. Creative, challenge, and feel.
Creative, challenge, and feel. Excellent. I think we don't even need to explain those. Those are that's exactly why we do it. Creative, challenge, and feel. DANI, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and it's been so good to catch up again. And I look forward to catching up in person again sometime soon. But thank you for sharing your advice for those listening, because it's really beneficial for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really hope this helps. I guess this is why we write music, is also to teach others how to write music and challenge each other. It's really cool.
Awesome. Okay, take care, DANI. Bye-bye.